That made me look like I've got teeth. Maybe boozy book club should be a thing. I don't mind the colour of this. It's rum and ginger beer, but I just felt like having it in a fancy glass. Hi everybody, welcome back to another video, or if you're joining us for the first time, hello and thank you. Today's video is a little bit different from what I usually do, but I have a goal this year of reading some more books. So I'm going to go through the 6 books that I want to read in 2021, and I know you're thinking 6 books really isn't a lot. However, it is a lot more than the 0 books that I read in 2020. I know, in a pandemic I read nothing still, because honestly, I don't know, when I was a kid I used to absolutely love reading, and I feel like it's a really common thing that when you get to like, I think it was uni. I went to uni and I just sort of stopped reading. I was like, at some point I decided I couldn't be bothered anymore, but I really want to get back into it. There's some really good books that are coming out this year and some really good books that I have on my shelves already that I think I want to read. Obviously, I might change my mind and not do any of this. I might not read a single book still. I have started reading a book. I did the introduction. I read it a few nights ago. So I've not read any since then. I'm really not a booktuber, but I just want to try a few more things out. Why not, honestly? The books that I like to read are mostly sort of non-fiction books by women, for women. Yeah. That feels a bit like a weird thing to say, but I think it's true. They make you feel better. They give you some more information about how to look after yourself. Information that helps you respect yourself. Woman's not read a book in years. I don't know why I think I know what books I like to read. So yeah, let's just get into it. The first book is a solid book. The first book that I have that I want to read this year is Period Power by Maisie Hill. This is the book that I have already started. I got through literally the introduction and then put it down like this, and it's one of those books where I'm one of those people that writes in books. You can't really tell, but I've like underlined bits that I think are interesting, put little hearts, those bits that I particularly like. Yeah, with non-fiction books I like to scribble all over them, and I know some people think that's like sacrilege, but I like it. It makes it come to life a bit more for me. So essentially, it's a book about periods. In the introduction, she is, yeah, after what I've just said as well, in the introduction she's very specific about it, that it's for people who have periods, not gendered. It's so far very good at that. Not read much of it. But this is a book that I'm reading because I saw that Emma Tamsin Hill, you know, I think she's the queen. I trust her recommendations. So it's supposed to teach you more about your cycle, to learn how to get power from it at different points in your cycle. And essentially I really hate having a period. Not even in like that, it's not too bad for me even, just in the sense of that, okay, I was born this way, so now I have to experience pain every month and then birth a child, which is really painful. Don't have to, obviously. And that really pisses me off. I really hate that people that aren't born with vaginas and ovaries and all the rest of it just sort of get to go along life. Oh, I don't know, like, it pisses me off. So I thought that this book might help me out in getting out of that mindset, getting some power from it somehow. I don't know how that works, but I think I want to do an in-depth review of this, maybe in my boozy book club. Is that a good idea? Please tell me if you think boozy book club is a good idea. It is quite like an informative book, so for wow. It's got some very interesting diagrams, which I'm finding funny right now. So when you're on the pill, you don't even have a proper period, so I'm not sure how much this book applies to me. But I still feel like I experienced the dips and everything and all the rest of it, so I'm hoping that I can still get something out of it. And yeah, very excited on that one. The second one, is a somewhat controversial one, which I bought a few months ago. At the same time as Period Power, and since then it all kicked off. Listen, I'm not gonna talk on that right now because I don't really know much of what went on. I obviously think that, you know, black people should not have their ideas stolen if that's what happened. I know I should look into it more. I do recognise that I bought Florence's book and not the Slumflowers, and that was mainly because I had no idea that the Slumflower had a book. I followed her on Twitter, but I hadn't seen anything about it. I would be interested in reading it, especially if it's a bit more, let's say, interesting than this book. This is another book that I began reading and didn't get that far into. It's very easy to read because it's got really big pictures on some of the pages, and like it's very pretty to look at, but it just affirms what I already know. Like I know all these things. I've been a feminist for my whole life, and I know that I don't have to do anything for anyone. I know that like I can go out without makeup and it shouldn't affect anyone. I know that it does affect people, you know. And to be fair, like, I've seen books like, it's really, really pretty, really well done. I've seen books like this before. I really like the style it's written in. I really like having pretty pictures to look at. It's quite nice when you don't read often to have big pretty pictures. And it'd be really, really good for someone that had just maybe got out of a toxic relationship, maybe broken up with a guy recently, maybe was feeling like, you know, maybe was just like 13 and hadn't found their confidence in how to not care about not care about men, but you know what I mean, to not care what men care about you, to not care what men are thinking about you, that's what I mean. But I think for most people we already know this stuff, but it's still quite nice to have it reiterated and reinforced back to you. And the third and final book that I have as an actual hardcover is Sara Pascoe's Sex, Power, Money. So this was a Christmas present. And Sara Pascoe isn't anyone that I have ever really thought anything about. Not that I haven't cared for. I've seen a little bit of her work, she's okay. I don't know, I'm not like a huge fan, it didn't grab me. But I will be reading this seeing as I got it for a present. Is that actually signed? Or is that... Does anyone know if that's actually signed? I can't tell. No? Yes? I don't know. I mean, it's 3 things that I care about. It's another sort of sexual book. I've always been this way. I don't know if it's because my mum's a counsellor, but the books that I read when I was younger were of like a similar nature, like things about gender and sex and stuff. Obviously not too young, you know, when I was like 17. Those were the books that I watched. I in fact made a YouTube video that did better than any of the videos I've recently posted. But yeah, a bit creepy really because it was a young girl, and I put the caption as "Let's talk about sex books." Anyway, it's not what I'm here to talk about. Yeah, when I was growing up there were a lot of books around the house that were about sex, gender. So by the time I was like 16, 17, 18, they were the books that I felt like reading, because I like non-fiction books that are about something that's not like what I'm studying or working. As I don't know, I just prefer non-fiction. I could never really get into fiction that well. The only times that I've managed to get into fiction are on Audible. So that's true, I listened to some Audible books last year. I'm about halfway through a David Tennant narrated book called My Sister Lives on the Mantlepiece, I think. Essentially about a little girl that has sadly been killed in a terrorist incident, and it's through the eyes of her brother. And yeah, I've still got 4 hours left, so it looks like I've seen listened to maybe half of it. But yeah, I did listen to some audiobooks last year, so I forgot to put these in the list. Yeah, I currently have 3 audiobooks that are active, which I'll also want to finish. So the first one is My Sister Lives on the Mantlepiece, which is narrated by David Tennant, which just makes it even better. It is written by Annabel Pitcher. I don't know, it's just one of them. It's really sad, but it's like uplifting at the same time, ish. As uplifting as death can be, you know. And then also got The Game of Desire by Shan on here, which I have 6 hours left of. And Shan is a YouTuber that talks about sex and relationships, and I have been a huge fan of her for the longest time. Always wanted to read her book, couldn't really get my hands on it for some reason. I don't know. And then I saw it on Audible and I've been listening to it. I kind of forgot that I had an Audible account. I think I set it up in like summer and I've been paying for it and not listening to anything for quite a few months. But yeah, Shan, look her up on YouTube. She is one of the best. I find her so entertaining, so like I just respect her so much. I think she has so much respect in the YouTube sex and relationships area. And finally on Audible I have Why I'm No Longer Talking About Race. Yeah, I'm more than halfway through that one and it's a very, very interesting book, which I think is one of the most popular books about race that are out there. I think most people know about this book. So it's by Reni, Eddo-Lodge, and it educates you on racism in the UK, both historically and what's going on sort of currently. It was released in 2017, so it goes up to quite, you know, quite modern day sort of what we're dealing with. It's about things that have been eradicated from history, things that you've never heard of, and yeah, very, very good one. Very, very good. I've just not quite finished it yet. Finally, the last category. So I have 3 books that I physically have. Slap them. I have 3 books that I physically have, 3 books on my Audible, and 3 books that I am yet to buy because they're not released yet. So the 3 books left that I have to talk about, firstly is Working Hard, Hardly Working by Grace Beverley. I have mixed thoughts on Grace Beverley's companies. However, Grace Beverley, I personally think that she is a good force within fashion and those sort of communities. Like, people always talk about the problematic things that she has done, but I'm like, she younger than me? Like, she's 22, 23, 24, something like that. And she is killing it. I know that she had a head start in life, like her mum is a millionaire and obviously it's gonna be easier for her to like be an influencer, grow a platform if she doesn't have to worry about these things. She got a foot in the door at a investment company that don't normally take interns, according to something that I read. Obviously I can't fact check that. But I understand why people sort of question her, and I question the brand sometimes, but her work ethic and her overall, I really, really admire her. Have done for a long time, and I know that some people question that. I want to do a whole video on sort of Tala and her brand, so that's why I'm trying to separate them, because for me, Grace Beverley, she's clearly still worked so hard. I don't think you can take that away from her. I, for one, am interested in what her work ethic is, how she gets everything done. Yeah, I really look up to her and admire her. Even if she's not perfect, who is perfect? She's trying to do something, and I genuinely believe she is trying to do it well. I mean, she's so successful. She's got 3 companies. She 30 under 30 for Forbes. She's like a millionaire. Like, is she a millionaire? I think she's worth millions. That's different, isn't it? It's like the companies that she runs are worth millions. She is so successful, and yeah, I'm interested to read it. I don't have to justify it. I could say anything. But yeah, I'm very interested to read her book. Another book I'm interested in reading is Money, A User's Guide by Whateley. Yeah, I have sort of a career interest in finance, and I don't know much about stocks and shares. That is something that I don't really have my head around, despite, you know, giving it a bit of a go. I saw Lucy Moon say that this is a book that she enjoyed that helped her to understand stocks and shares. She'd put some money into Bitcoin recently, and she was asked like what helped her to find out more about investments, and she was saying she thinks it's really important that young people find out more about how to invest, what to invest, and how to make a better return on the money, because it's not something I've ever been talked to about aside. No, it's not something I've ever been talked to about. It's got other helpful things about understanding like credit and things like that. So yeah, I really look forward to reading that one, which is a non-fiction in finance, which I have only read a couple of books in that, so it will be probably pretty eye-opening. And finally is a possibly guilty pleasure one, is You Will Get Through This Night by Dan Howell. Dan Howell is just all around a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine and has been for, what, like a decade, maybe even longer than that. He has written basically a self-help book, which is also incorporated with telling his life story. And I'm really nosy, so I can't wait to find out a little bit more about him. He came out as gay a couple of years ago and gave off the vibe in the video about it that he'd only recently come out to his sort of family and friends as well, which, if that is true and if he opens up about that, I would be really interested to read. But yeah, just want to know more about him. And I do love a self-help, self-care book. So yeah, 1 out of 9 of those books is fictional. I'm just not a very fictional reader. I prefer non-fiction, learning more. They're essentially all about money, sex, and people, which I love, you know? Money, sex, and people. What more can you want from your life? Let me know if I should continue with this. I think if Boozy Book Club isn't a thing, that will be becoming a thing. I'm finding it hard to know what to say because I've not read any of them yet. And the audiobooks I've not listened to in like 6 months, so I've kind of forgotten. I'll be back with this series after I've read a little bit more. Please like this video if you've enjoyed it. I'd be really interested because this is something that I haven't usually done. And let me know what you think of my book list. I'd be interested what's on your book list. And yeah, I'll be back when I've read some more. Thank you very much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Is that a new one? Do you like my cushion? I really like it. Oh my god, the yellow background is really going to be bringing out the gnashes. Who's self-conscious? Not me. What was I saying? It's going to be fun to edit. Maybe Boozy Book Club should be a thing. Someone's definitely done that. But I really did just... I'm going to search that. Is that a thing? If that isn't a thing, I've stumbled on something great. Ish. It's alright.